A rash of flash flooding goes across the Kentucky floodplain, and several houses are swept off their foundation. So we'll be talking actually a little bit about that and some of the problems with that and some of the things that we can see with solutions on that as well. So that is going to be the top story of the day after we get done with finance. In other news, the Trump supporter who assaulted law enforcement at the U.S. Capitol gets 5 years, the longest sentence in all of January 6th history. And the caveat, he's the only black one so far. So we'll be talking just a bit about that and what that means. Brittany Griner demands appeals because she wasn't read her Miranda rights in a Russian court. I'm not kidding. That's a thing that actually happened. So we'll be talking about that. And remember, in Soviet Russia, rights read you. So I'll be talking about that and where we go with that. And Ron Filipkowski goes on a tirade on Lauren Boebert because she is demanding 5 days to read a bill before anybody can vote on it. It is going to be all this and more. You're my favorite breakfast tacos. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a fairly full-loaded show today, but we are going to take some time and finish off a little bit early today because today is the day that not only do I sit down and say thank you to everybody who chatted in the live chat. Thank you guys in advance, by the way, everybody who's got your name into the notebook. That is awesome. I love doing this for you guys on Friday. But also, we'll be going through some of your live chats as well today. So come back and hang out. And if you are lurking today, today's especially important for you to come back out and get your messages in. Oh, I got a hiccup. I must have drank too much before I got started here. Not booze. You guys would know it if I was all boozed up before I was doing Contemporary. And, well, that whole thing with us trying to compete with the AM radio, that'd be out the window if I was all boozed up. But, yeah, I got the... There's Mio Energy and a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there. It kind of helps control your blood sugar. It's one of those things. Look up apple cider vinegar one time and actually drinking it. It's an interesting proposal. It's not something you would ever think to do, but it actually does really, really good for your body apparently. And I've been trying it, and usually a little bit more energized, a little bit better in the digestive tract. So it's something to definitely go for and whatnot. But I did drink a little bit too much, but now I've got a little bit of hiccup, but the news stops for nobody, and we've got to get down to it. By the way, 15 concurrent viewers at least one point cross-platform this past week. So you guys are telling friends, you guys are advertising, and that is awesome. I love to see that. I love to see that number go up. That's pretty cool. it's interesting to me to think that rather than, the standard, hey, let's get our news from somebody who the government says to trust, from CNN, to somebody that they say is good, and somebody who's rich, somebody who wears a suit that costs more than your house, somebody like Chris Cuomo. They're the only people to get your news from, and instead we're starting a revolution, and people are starting to get their news from people like me, from the Daily Ignoramus, from the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-rated conservative, the Porch Boys. That's where you're starting to get your news and culture from. It's time to make that shift. It's better to get your news from somebody who's in, this is my living room, talking to a microphone, for now a cheap microphone, but we'll be changing that up in the near future, rather than going off and watching CNN, C-SPAN, MSDNC, and stuff like that, because we've had to make the same decisions that you guys have had to, and I'm really happy that this revolution is starting. And no, do I consider the Daily Wire guys, the Tim Pools and whatnot, to be in that same revolution? No. I consider people like Christensen, even though he and I don't get along, he is still one of the good ones in the culture war. The people like Christensen and Blonde, the people like Styx. Those are the people who are just sitting here in a microphone, no producer, although I would like to have a producer. Well, I guess I have producer Pepe, but they're not sitting out here, and they're not trying to talk to you from the ivory tower. They're actually trying to struggle along and make it through the day-to-day while the government is against them as well. So, thank you guys for that. Let's get into the news, let's get started, and let's see what finance looks like. In probably one of the most interesting twists on the Dow actually dropped, which I expected it was going to drop below previous close because of the recession news, but for whatever reason it climbed back up, and it came back up to 32,529.63. I do have a lot of questions about this, because this, looking at the fact that there's a Federal Reserve rate hike, looking at that fact, and the fact that it's going to be harder and harder and harder for consumers to continue buying, looking at the fact that we have had 2 consecutive quarters of GDP growth, which is apparently not a recession. Trust me, there are 4 lights. None of this chart here doesn't make sense. Everything right here does not make any sense to me, and somebody who's more versed in finance, feel free to tell me, because there does not seem to be any possible way that we can start to see charts like this. But we'll continue to watch this and see what happens today. We'll talk about that on Monday, and what the markets do to react. It's looking like they're going to come back and soar again, so we'll see what happens with that. Looking in at the Bitcoin took another, not as significant jump, but another jump that's noticeable, at least yesterday. Throughout the day today as well, almost immediately jumping up to 23,728.60, staying steady throughout the day today, but just a really big jump right about midnight. So we'll be talking about that, where that goes, and what happens with your Bitcoin. But it does look to be on the rise right now. Maybe some people are going to start putting their savings into stuff like that, so we'll see what happens there. Gas remaining steady at the 366 mark, and it's actually down that far, all the way down here, Janesville as well. Not in Redacted, where I live, but in Janesville, where I usually go and get fuel, because up here it's usually 10 cents more. But yeah, it's still, I think, 378 or 380 here in town, but going down to Janesville, 368, Madison's 366, so the reprieve is here. Maybe you can afford to buy some more macaroni and cheese and some more Spam and some more hot dogs, and I would continue to do that, because all indicators right now are pointing to this coming harvest being brutal, so we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one from IBD for you. Dow futures rise, market rally extends momentum as advertisements come across the screen. I don't have the live chat up. On live chat day. Dow futures rise, market rally extends momentum as Apple pops, Amazon soars on earnings. From Ed Carson. Dow futures rose early Friday along with the S&P and especially the Nasdaq as Apple and Amazon headlined another wave of overnight earnings. The stock market rally showed strength Thursday, shrugging off a post-Fed pullback and weak earnings to move modestly higher. In addition to Apple and Amazon, First Solar, Intel, and Roku were notable reports. Hey, a solar company in the Green New Deal push is a notable report. Surprise! Let's see. Apple rose modestly overnight on better-than-expected fiscal Q3 earnings and upbeat comments. Apple surged in extended trading. The e-commerce and cloud computing giant topped revenue views. First Solar rose 4% early Friday after First Solar easily beat EPS views and also topped on sales. Shares spiked 15% on Thursday as Congress made progress on legislation that includes solar and green power incentives. This is not official financial advice. But if you have the opportunity to go back and grab a solar stock right now, I would do it. I definitely would do it right now. Always check with your financial advisor to see what is going to be best for your portfolio. He knows you better than I do, but I would at least start looking into it right now. Intel plunged 11% in extended action after the ailing chip giant missed Q2 views badly and slashed full-year estimates, which is surprising because they just got a great big corporate bailout from the taxpayers. Roku crashed more than 20% after the streaming platform reported a wider-than-expected loss and fell short on revenue, citing a significant slowdown in advertising. Streaming hours watched edge lower versus Q1. Roku also guided sharply lower in Q3. Roku stock is set to plunge to its worst level since the March of 2020 coronavirus lows. So, with Roku, with Netflix, with Paramount, etc., I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what it's like across the rest of the country. Here in Wisconsin, in southern Wisconsin, it has been probably one of the best years to get out and do stuff, to not sit in front of the TV. Even if you've got a Roku in your kitchen or something while you're cooking or whatnot, why not cook outside if you've got a grill? Or make a campfire. I have had, and I'm citing this against last year when the air conditioner was on almost every single day. Part of that is the energy concerns, because I know the energy bills are going up. But really, honestly, it has been nice enough this year. I've had the windows open almost all year. I've had the air conditioner on for probably less than 10 days total. I will walk that back because that is not counting when I was in Georgia. I left it on in its power save mode just in case it got excessively overly hot and rained in or something else like that. And I don't know how long it stayed on and stayed off, because it's a window unit. When it's in power save mode, it turns itself off. Just has a thermostat on. But while I've been here, I would say 8 days total this year. People are out doing stuff. That's a good thing. Getting that vitamin D. They're not locked in their homes. They're not being pressured by a Democrat campaign to never ever leave their houses. That's a good thing. But that's what we see for that. Early Friday, Dow giant Chevron easily beat views, while Exxon also topped forecasts. Chevron rose solidly as it moves back towards its 50-day line. ExxonMobil climbed modestly after retaking its 50-day line earlier this week. AstraZeneca topped forecasts and raised a full-year revenue target. AbbVie topped EPS views but just missed sales targets. AstraZeneca and AbbVie edged lower, both near buy points. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.2% versus fair value. The S&P climbed 0.6% and the Nasdaq popped almost a full percent. Apple and Intel are Dow and S&P and Nasdaq components. CVX is a Dow Jones and S&P stalwart. Crude oil futures rose more than 2%. Those gas prices are going to climb if we keep seeing that number over and over again. The 10-year yield climbed 2 points to 2.7%. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see coming out of that. Let's grab one quick from Market Watch. And then I do have a couple other finance articles, some miscellaneous ones as well. Market Watch saying stock market's post-Fed bounce is a trap, warns Morgan Stanley's Mike Wilson. From Bill Watts. Mike Wilson, who has correctly called the stock market's 2022 swoon, isn't convinced the lows are in after the major U.S. indices scored big again following Wednesday's Federal Reserve decision to raise rates by another 75 points or 0.75 of a percentage point. Investors found reason to cheer after Jerome Powell said that while another 75-point move in September was possible, the decision would depend on forthcoming economic data, while Powell asserted the Fed would bring stubbornly high inflation down and that the economy would need to see below-trend growth. Traders saw prospects for the Fed to slow the pace of rate increases and no reason to budge their expectations for the Fed funds rate to ultimately top out south of 3.5%. Stocks wobbled in early trade, but moved to the upside in late morning trade as investors digested an estimate of second quarter gross domestic product that showed the U.S. economy contracted 0.9% in an annual pace that follows a 1.6% contraction in the first 3 months of the year and highlights fear of a sharp slowdown in economic growth and the potential for recession. We're in recession, but also served to reinforce expectations the Fed will soon slow the pace of tightening, analysts said. Stocks have fallen sharply in 2022, with the S&P and the Nasdaq entering bear markets, as the Fed has moved to aggressively hike rates in an effort to rein in inflation. However, Wednesday's jump was in line with a pattern seen on 3 previous days when the Fed delivered the rate hikes in 22. Such jumps have often been followed by pullbacks. So, this is not necessarily the time to get into, this is again not official financial advice, get into stocks or bonds under your normal growth, but there are certain industries, like solar, that it is worth paying attention to. So that's what we see for that. Let's grab one quick from the Washington Post. This is an analysis. This is an op-ed from Philip Bump. How hypocritical have observers been about the definition of recession? A years-old tweet from CNN White House correspondent John Harwood has gotten new life this week, always a sign that someone, somewhere is hoping to score some points. The tweet at issue was this one. By the way, it's not possible for a recession to last only 2 months. Recession equals economy shrinks for 2 quarters. If you're proximately attuned to the current political conversation, you'll recognize the trigger for calling out the White House has been very deliberate and very vocal about recalibrating expectations about what constitutes a recession, including downplaying the simple equation that Harwood used in 2019. As the Washington Post's Aaron Blake noted, the definition is in fact more nuanced than one of Harwood presented. Consecutive quarters of declines in the gross domestic product, as the U.S. has just experienced, is an indicator, and one that generally overlaps with recessions, but the declaration of a recession has political repercussions that the White House hopes to avoid, and its critics hope to elevate. That is the most honest reporting from the Washington Post I've ever read. We can't declare it a recession because it has political repercussions. They don't know they're being honest. They think they're still carrying water for the Biden admin. They think, oh no, this just means that it's not actually a recession because of political repercussions. No. They said the quiet part out loud here. We can't call it a recession because it has political repercussions. Hence the focus on Harwood, who in recent days has similarly noted that the definition of a recession isn't hard and fast. It's an opportunity for President Biden's critics and the political right to draw attention to the perceived bit of hypocrisy. Oh my God. They're really doing this. To the perceived bit of hypocrisy to use an allegation of attempted point scoring to score points. Dude! You strutted around like chickens when Biden was responsible for the fastest growth in the U.S. economy. What was it, 6.5%? Which is still ridiculous by the way to me, because in Barack's first year, there's no reason that he shouldn't have had 10% growth, unless he was out there trying to deliberately put the screws to the American people. The economy had gone so bad, the GDP had gone so bad under Bush that should have been an easy 10% first year. Maybe slowing down a little bit in second, third, and fourth year. And then because of bad policies going down even further into 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. We're in a recession. But that first year, there's no reason, except for fiscal incompetence, that we shouldn't have had 10% growth. That's how bad it was. One of the challenges with Twitter is that by design, it elides context from an assertion. You only have so many characters, even as you're encouraged to riff on what's happening in the moment. The result is that standalone statements quickly lose the context in which they were offered. Oh, it's context now! Oh, it's context! That's what it's doing! They are trying, and they're carrying water to do so. Everything in their power to make this not be a recession. And I pointed this out on Twitter too. You know, they're coming out here, some people are saying, well, if Trump was still president, they'd be calling this a recession. Well, no, if Trump was still president, we wouldn't have had 2 quarters of negative growth. Because there would have been a pressure campaign. There would have been an orange angry face looking at Congress every day saying, What regulations can we cut to get the economy going faster? The American people are suffering. I want to see a good economy. Let's do this. What can we cut? But if, for whatever reason, we still got into 2 quarters and a recession under Trump, and by the way, if this happened under year 1 Biden, I would have said, okay, well, let's go ahead and say that this might have been the Trump recession. It wasn't. They got a year and they strutted around like proud peacocks over the 6.5% growth, which means that all the crash is on them. Somebody pointed out and says, oh, if we'd had this, every news story would be out there saying that this is the recession, worst recession in history. It's a recession. And I said, yeah, I know that's true, because if the Dow went down 5% for more than 2 hours under the Trump presidency, everybody on CNN was out there screaming that we were in the new Great Depression and Trump has wrecked the economy. So, spare me your crap. And by the way, just so you know, it's not just Harwood. There have been several others. We've talked about other ones here, where they're coming back out and saying, oh, well, we've had a quarter, and it looks like another quarter is coming here. This is going to be a recession under Trump, especially in quarter 3, was it? Yeah, approaching quarter 3 GDP for 2020, which we didn't wind up getting the recession off of that. Because was it quarter 2 that we had like the 30% fall in GDP? And then it shot right back up. So yeah, spare me. But in one of the few instances, by the way, where I agree with Bernie Sanders tweets out, listen to the CEO of Intel tell you all you need to know about oligarchy, corporate arrogance, and the state of the American politics. It sure sounds like extortion to me. Because Bernie stands against the CHIPS Act, and under one of the very, very few instances where I agree with Bernard Sanders, this is one of them.
I recently came across a very, very interesting interview that the CEO of Intel, Mr. Pat Gelsinger, did last Friday on CNBC's Squawk Box. And I think that interview that he did tells us everything that we want to know about the American oligarchy, about corporate arrogance, and the state of American politics. And this is what Mr. Gelsinger said last Friday, and I quote,
do not go home for August recess until you have passed the CHIPS Act because I and others in the industry will make investment decisions. And do you want those investments in the U.S., or are we simply not competitiveness to do them here, and we need to go to Europe or Asia for those? Get the job done. Do not go home for August recess without getting these bills passed.
The CEO of a major corporation, which made nearly $20 billion in profits last year, and a CEO who received a $179 million compensation package, is saying to Congress that if you don't give my industry, the microchip industry, $76 billion, and my company, it is estimated, some $20 or $30 billion, that despite their profound love for our country and their respect for American workers and their understanding of the needs of the U.S. military and the healthcare industry, despite all of that, in order to make more profits, they are prepared to go to Europe and Asia. Now, Mr. President, I am thankfully not a lawyer, but that sure sounds like extortion to me.
Now, why am I agreeing with Bernie Sanders? Why is Bernie Sanders right? There's no reason to go back and give taxpayer money to these people who clearly have the money and the interest in doing this, except for an extortion. Oh, hey, your friends over in Europe and Asia, hey, they've got factories looking pretty good. Hey, they don't have to pay for military over there. They can give us all kinds of money. Hey, you better do what we tell you. So, why I'm agreeing with Bernie? Well, if he does the right thing, I'm not going to come back out and say bad. He's still a dirty communist socialist. And I know that his preferred economic program would be the death of this country, but when it comes to corporate greed, I mean, he does have it right, especially when it's coming off the taxpayer dime. So, this is a weird world. There was another, and I didn't put it on the stack for the day, but there was another tweet thread out there where a communist was saying that the transgender ideology was dangerous for the country. It's a long thread. I have it in the Discord. And I read through the entire thread. I'm like, what's going on? This person wants to violently take everything from everybody and then redistribute it evenly. And yet he understands the damage that the transgender movement is causing on society. Not transgenderism itself, but the actual movement. The forced pronouns, the let us go into the bathroom, stuff like that. So that's what we see for that. Let's go talk Kentucky. From Fox Weather to start with. St. Louis and Kentucky flooding, 2 different 1-in-1,000-year flood events this same week. Yeah, we're going to start hearing about that. It's climate change. From Scott Sistek. A historic flooding event unfolded in eastern Kentucky Thursday and is coming to just 48 hours after another historic rainfall event buried parts of St. Louis area under a feet of water, both considered 1-in-1,000-year flooding events. It's climate change! But it's all part of the same weather pattern. A combination of atmosphere ripe with tropical moisture and frontal boundary that has stalled across the region has set up a days-long summer soaker across the heartland, with some rainfall amounts never before seen in the area's recorded history. A warm front lifted Monday night, but when the boundary stalled across the region, said Fox Weather meteorologist Jane Minar, we have warm air to the south of the front, and we have colder air off to the north. The 2 air masses butt up against each other, but neither one wins out, so we see this boundary set up between these two, and that's where the disrupting weather sits. It doesn't move. Congratulations, meteorologist. You understand how a thunderstorm works. Meanwhile, the atmosphere was pumped full of tropical moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, providing ample fuel for heavy rains as thunderstorms developed along the stalled frontal boundary. Congratulations, you know how thunderstorms work. There's really no mechanism to push this boundary north or south, Minar said. The rain will continue like a train track along that boundary. That set the scene for Tuesday's catastrophic flooding in St. Louis, where hours of torrential rains triggered flash flood emergencies, especially in the western suburbs. St. Louis's Lambert International Airport received 9 inches of rain over a 24-hour period late Monday to Tuesday, shattering the 24-hour rain record of 7.02 inches from the remnants of a hurricane that hit Galveston in 1915. Some rain gauges on the western suburbs reached over 10 inches, while St. Peter's going over a foot of rain at 12.34 inches. The low-pressure center traveled east along the frontal boundary Wednesday, and by late Wednesday night had reached eastern Kentucky, where once again hours of rain, logged thunderstorms triggered overwhelming rainfall amounts. Only this time the flooding was made worse by the topography, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. Look, weather patterns and the cold weather and warm weather line, that's nothing new. It happens. Sometimes it's a freak accident. Before I moved to Boston, actually, I think it was not the summer I moved there. I think it was the summer before. I was staying with my grandparents for the summer. Waiting to get back into those sweet, sweet dorm rooms. I was staying with my grandparents for the summer, and throughout that summer, from, let's say, just about March until the middle of July. We did have fireworks that year, we did have a break, but it rained pretty much every single day. And it was a good soaking rain. It wasn't always thunderstorm. It wasn't always damaging winds. It wasn't always hail or tornadoes or anything like that. But it rained at least an hour every single day for that summer. I thought we were in Florida for a second. It rained so damn much. To the point where many of the churches were talking about giving arc lessons. This happens. It's how thunderstorms work. But because of the climate change agenda, they're going to try to say, once in 1,000-year flooding. Let's grab one from our friends over at NPR. In Kentucky, at least 8 people are dead after torrential rains flood Appalachia. This is from Stan Ingold. This was heard on Morning Edition, and remember, hit that donate button because NPR depends on your donations. They depend on your taxpayer dollars, of course, publicly funded. But it's not enough for them to tell you that communism is the only way to come back out. So hit that donate button because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. Never Printing Reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. Andy Bashir has declared a state of emergency after heavy rains and flash flooding led to massive damage on the eastern part of the state. That's it? Boy, am I glad I grabbed the CNN article. At least 8 dead in eastern Kentucky flooding, and hundreds will lose their homes, governor says. From Steve Almasi, Jason Hanna, and Michelle Watson. At least 8 people have died in widespread flooding in eastern Kentucky. Following heavy overnight rains, the governor said on Thursday, an inundation that he says will be one of the most significant deadly floods in the Commonwealth's history. This is an ongoing natural disaster, with more rain expected tonight that could worsen the situation. The death toll has heartbreakingly risen to 8 Kentuckians lost, Andy Bashir tweeted. F in the chat for the 8 Kentuckians. Bashir said the personnel from the National Guard, the Fish and Wildlife Department, the state police, and local emergency management agencies were responding to the crisis. Portions of Kentucky around Hazard received more than 9 inches of rain on Wednesday into Thursday, according to National Weather Service radar estimates and local observers. The rain in eastern Kentucky overwhelmed creeks, streams, and the ground already saturated from previous rain. The Weather Service said flood warnings in portions of eastern Kentucky have been extended, in some cases until Monday evening. Additional rainfall amounts over an inch are expected through Friday evening. We're watching pretty close, and it's not going to take much to cause some additional flooding issues, Dustin Jordan of the Weather Service's office in Jackson told CNN. The rains have caused untold damage to homes in the state, slice of central Appalachia, and forced some residents into the roofs of their swamped homes to await rescue, the governor said at a morning news conference. Eastern Kentucky resident Belinda Asher said she received a flash flood alert on her phone at 1:15 a.m. By 2 a.m., everything I had was completely underwater, she told CNN, adding 10 to 15 other families in a 1-mile stretch also lost everything. Asher, her husband, and 3 children live on the line, dividing Breathitt and Perry counties. Their 3-bedroom home and her truck were washed away. Early Thursday, the family is now staying with their brother-in-law in Hazard. I have no plan. I don't know. How do you start from zero? She asked. The governor said the state will need a long time to recover. Hundreds will lose their homes, and this is going to be yet another event where it's going to take not months but likely years for many families to rebuild and recover, Bashir said in the morning media briefing. So let's look at some of what's happening here, some of the footage off of this.
At least 3 people have died in catastrophic flash flooding in eastern Kentucky. Officials tell CNN an elderly woman's body was found this morning after she was reported missing. Emergency teams had to travel half a mile by boat and then walk about a mile farther to reach her.
Heavy overnight rains swallowing entire towns. Take a look at your screen. The governor calls this one of the worst flooding events in the state's history. There are still several people unaccounted for, and forecasters say more than 6 inches of rain have drenched the area. CNN meteorologist Tom Sater is in the weather center for us. So, Tom, how much more rain is threatening that area?
Well, unfortunately, they do have another round coming in tonight, and it could get heavy in toward tomorrow as well. It'll get better by the weekend, but the larger rivers will continue to remain high. This is going to be really bad. I mean, with so many that are missing, the death toll most likely is going to go up. We just had the highest rainfall totals ever in St. Louis from the same weather system, which could have been the U.S.'s $10th billion disaster.
Oh, panic,
number
panic.
11. So again, one thunderstorm after another into the same area. This is coal country. This is southeast Kentucky. I know it well. I used to work in Lexington. It's Floyd County. It's Breathitt. It's not down toward Harlan. But again, the last 3 days, you're getting another round of events where you've got 8, 9, 10 inches of rainfall, even more. So the warnings are going to remain in effect. This is a very hilly terrain area. A lot of hills and hollers. And most communities are down in the lower areas, but so are the creeks. So when the creeks that were already running high, again, rise and then go into the other tributaries and the larger rivers, it affects a large area. This is the front that's been meandering around, and that's the culprit for that record rain in St. Louis and for Kentucky. So with it not moving much, we're going to have another round. Again, St. Louis will see more, but again, really concerned about that area of eastern Kentucky, now in the mountains of North Carolina and toward West Virginia as well. So look at this. This is a lot of rainfall. We'd like to see it in, of course, the wheat basket area and the bread basket for the farmers there. But again, this could be the $11th billion disaster, the second one in just a couple of days.
And, I mean, looking into some of the footage that they had with that as well, it does look, and I can't necessarily tell, let's mute that for a second, just look at the imagery that's going with that. But it looks to me, just even coming in from that and seeing, it does appear that this is actually built into a holler, into a small valley with large mountain on either side. That's, I mean, I'm looking up at the tree lines there, and that's what I'm seeing. So the one thing to watch with this, especially when they talk about flash flooding too, if you're in a situation like this, the flash flooding, that's moving fast. That is rain running off of one area to go fill up another area, and it's going fast. Now, I remember, where I grew up on the side of the in the driftless area, what they called in Wisconsin, on the side of a bunch of bluffs where they talked about flash flooding for us too, and we did see a little bit of that sometimes throughout our small town. But for the most part, because of the Mississippi riverbed, most everything could go back and run back off and go there. We did have one big flood when I was a baby, but for the most part, it was tornadoes that went back and ran through everything. But it's for the flash flooding, it's the fast-moving part, the part that sweeps houses off foundations, that you've got to watch for. So, best wishes to those in Kentucky. I do hope that they have the insurance they need, that they can start to rebuild their lives soon. And we are very sorry for their losses over there. All right. Let's talk about MAGA. That'll be a fun one. Manifestall tweets out, "The MAGA black man at the riots got the longest sentence of everybody. I'm screaming." Yeah, isn't that kind of interesting? Moving on with this here. Mark Ponder, 56, received 5 years in prison for his involvement in the January 6th Selfie Fest. At one point, he left the Selfie Fest and came back. He asked the judge for mercy. It's reportedly the longest sentence for a selfie taker. What do you all think?
The criminal complaint filed in federal court says during the breach of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, Mark Ponder of Northwest D.C. used 2 different metal poles to repeatedly assault police officers attempting to hold the line at the West Terrace. One of the officers trying to defend himself with a riot shield. Charging documents say after being hit by Ponder, several officers physically tackled him to the ground. He was detained right there by D.C. police officers for 26 minutes. But at 3:15 p.m., an hour after rioters breached the walls and began entering the Capitol building, prosecutors say those same officers had no choice but to release Ponder. The charging documents blaming, quote, the chaotic nature of the day. Court documents say Ponder actually lectured the officers who arrested him as they were releasing him, and even came back to the Capitol 2 hours later, allegedly seen on body cam, this time standing on the inauguration stage. Prosecutors say Ponder only left for good once tear gas was deployed on the crowd.
So, again, not only was he there, but he went there and came back. That's on him. I feel like if I'd have got thrown out of something like that, I wouldn't have gone back, but regardless, the black dude got the longest sentence of the selfie takers. In courts that are most definitely run by Democrats. Man, you would have thought that would have been the other way around, with all the rhetoric that they say about BLM. From CNN. Man who assaulted law enforcement at U.S. Capitol sentenced to 5 years. From Avery Lotz and Andrew Millman. Oh, they're bringing children in front of lawmakers. A federal judge sentenced a man who assaulted law enforcement officers with poles during the Selfie Fest, continued to scuffle with officers after being briefly detained that day, to more than 5 years in prison on Tuesday. Mark Ponder pleaded guilty in April to assaulting law enforcement, has been held without bond since March of 2021. The 56-year-old D.C. resident was also sentenced to 3 years of supervised release. Ponder remained on Capitol grounds for nearly 3 hours on January 6th after being detained for attacking officers released earlier in the day amid the chaos. Ponder engaged in a second violent assault on one of the most brutal attacks between officers and rioters that day. One of the most brutal attacks, you say? Is that the one where no officers died? Oh, but Sicknick the next day had a heart attack, and then these people shot themselves in the back of the head twice. After that, He later told federal agents that police were part of the problem during the riot. Sergeant Aquilino Garnell, one of the U.S. Capitol Police officers that Ponder attacked, was testified Tuesday at Ponder's sentencing committee. He didn't care whether I was a cop or not. He didn't care that I had a family or not, Garnell said. Garnell asked D.C. District Judge Tanya Chutkin, "Please do not fall for his plea, because that day he didn't care about me," and described Ponder's explanation that he got caught up in the moment as BS. Garnell, who has emerged as a prominent voice speaking publicly about the attack and its effect on law enforcement, told the court that he was injured by other rioters and blocked attacks from Ponder with his riot shield during the assault. Before handing down her own sentence, Chutkin said that Ponder wasn't defending himself or anyone else. He was just trying to injure those officers. And if he'd have had a power fist and BLM, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Chutkin's sentence went several months beyond the Justice Department's request of 60 months, and during Tuesday's hearing, the judge said that she even considered going above the maximum guideline recommendation of 71 months. Oh, that is not a good look. Ooh. No, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Is it because he's black? Is that what we're doing here? I wasn't thinking, Ponder told the court on Tuesday. That day I wasn't thinking. I'm extremely sorry for that. You black? Is that what's going on here? Ponder said that he had been pepper sprayed and got caught up in the tensions of the day and asked the judge for mercy. And the judge said, no. There's your Justice Department for you right there. Yeah, Ron's got actually right. It's because he's black and not supporting Brandon. Uh-oh. Blew up my Discord DMs. Apparently not, because I don't have any DMs on right now. I don't have any DMs right now. Oh, it was for Fanning. Never mind. So, yes. The black dude got the biggest sentence out of everybody. We will skip the NBC ones. Let's go talk about Griner, speaking of crime and punishment. Biden admin makes offer to Russia for release of WNBA star Griner, ex-Marine Whalen, from Amanda Macias. The U.S. has made an offer to the Russian government for the release of Brittany Griner and former U.S. Marine Paul Whalen, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said on Wednesday. We put a substantial proposal on the table weeks ago, Blinken told reporters at the State Department. The nation's top diplomat also said that he would discuss the offer with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in the coming days. Our government has communicated repeatedly and directly on that proposal, and I'll use the conversation to follow up personally, and I hope move us towards a resolution, Blinken said. Blinken declined to share additional details about the U.S. offer when pressed by reporters. Oh, don't worry, we know what the offer is. But when it comes to our efforts to secure the return home of Paul Whalen and Brittany Griner, you understand that I can't and won't get into any of the details of what we proposed to the Russians over the course of so many weeks, he said. Blinken also declined to confirm if the U.S. offer involved a prisoner swap of Griner and Whalen for Russian arms trafficker Victor Bout. As CNN reported, Bout is currently serving a 25-year U.S. prison sentence. This is delicate work, John Kirby told reporters during the White House press briefing. We've made a proposal and we urge the Russians to move positively on that proposal so we can get these two individuals home. The details of it, I think, are left between us and our Russian counterparts, Kirby said. The 31-year-old Griner, who plays professional basketball in Russia during the WNBA offseason, was arrested in February in a Russian airport on accusations she was smuggling hashish oil. If she's convicted, the charge could carry a penalty up to 10 years in prison. Yeah, it's gonna be more than that. Unfortunately. Because also keep in mind, American citizen. Griner has since pleaded guilty. "I'm terrified I might be here forever," the Olympian wrote in a letter to Biden earlier this month, asking for his direct assistance with her case. On the heels of the letter, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris spoke with the WNBA star's wife, Cherelle Griner. Biden reassured the wife that he's working to secure Griner's release as soon as possible, according to White House readout of the call. He also said on call that he is working on the release of Whelan, who's serving a 16-year sentence in Russia. Whelan was arrested in 2018 on charges of acting as a spy for the U.S. At the time he was arrested, Whelan was visiting Russia to attend a wedding, according to his brother David Whelan. As far as Griner goes, one of the things to watch with that too, because they've been trying to come out and say that she was out there with just a little bit of CBD for her personal use to keep her on the field, on the court, keep her muscles calm and everything else. And as more and more details of the whole thing came out, it seems more like she was over there with plenty of intent to distribute. Like, she had a lot on her. I cannot independently confirm that because, Green Check News. But from the sounds of it, she had a lot on her. From USA Today. Dangerously misguided, but maybe necessary. U.S. negotiates scary Brittany Griner swap with Russia. From Chris Bumbaka and Josh Meyer. The U.S. government on Wednesday made public what everybody had suspected for months. It was negotiating a deal with Russia to free WNBA star Brittany Griner. Reactions from experts and hostage negotiations were split. Publicizing deals to free Americans sets a bad precedent and endangers Americans, some say. Others believe previous examples of such exchanges demonstrate it's the only way to safely return wrongfully detained prisoners. The State Department has determined that Griner has been wrongfully detained by Moscow. Why? She was doing something that was illegal at the time in that country. Doesn't matter what our laws are. Officially, Anthony Blinken said the U.S. made substantial proposal to the Kremlin weeks ago would offer no specifics. It was the first public acknowledgement that the highest levels of diplomatic relations were working to bring WNBA star home. Any agreement would involve a prisoner swap with Russia or concessions on recent economic sanctions, and CNN reported shortly before Blinken's announcement that the U.S. had offered notorious Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout. Blinken said he plans to meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in the coming weeks about the cases of Griner, who could face 10 years on drug charges, and Paul Whelan, who's also considered wrongfully detained in Russia. The government taking the public behind the curtains was somewhat surprising, said Danny Gilbert, a Rosenwald Fellow at the U.S. Foreign Policy and International Security at the John Sloan Dickey Center for International Understanding at the Dartmouth College. It doesn't really portend good news in the negotiations to make that kind of announcement, Gilbert told USA Today Sports. Especially if you weren't planning on doing that. Now, this is the thing. Was CNN coming out and saying, hey, they might be going out and they might be setting out this particular prisoner? That does give Russia the pressure campaign to come out and say, yes, we want prisoner come back. We were thinking of prisoner first, but we want prisoner to come back. You send this prisoner over to us. Otherwise, you might not get basketball star with light skin and CIA spy that you say was attending wedding. So, and then USA Today goes on to talk about who Viktor Bout is. Apparently an arms dealer, and he was arrested in Thailand, so probably not the best kind of person to go back and exchange out for a basketball star. This is the funny one. This is, by the way, for the reason for the title card of this particular episode. U.S. basketball star Griner says her rights were not read to her when detained in Russia. In Soviet Russia, rights read you. From Reuters, no author given. U.S. basketball star Brittany Griner, who's on trial in Russia on drug charges, said in court on Wednesday that her rights were not read to her when she was detained at Moscow airport on February 17th. No way! You have a country that doesn't have a constitution, guidelines for the government, that is still under much of the Soviet-style rule. And your complaint is that you weren't read American rights? You don't have rights over there. Especially as a foreigner in Russia. You don't have rights, my dear. Whatever they decide to do with you is what you're going to have to live with. Whether it be for prisoner exchange, diplomatic issues, or otherwise. Whatever you have going on over there, that's on you. My rights weren't read to me. Are you stupid? WNBA's Griner tells drug trial, "My career is my whole life." From Vladimir Isachenkov. Brittany Griner testified at her drug possession trial in Russia that an interpreter translated only a fraction of what was being said while she was being detained at Moscow's airport in February, and that officials told her to sign documents, but no one explained any of it to me. Yeah, that's pretty standard. Testimony by Griner came the same day as Anthony Blinken said Washington has offered a deal to Russia aimed at bringing home the WNBA star and another jailed American. Griner, testifying for the first time at her trial, also said she believes the poor translation at the airport. She received no explanations of her rights or access to a lawyer. Good luck. During the initial hours of her detention, she said she used a translation app on her phone to communicate with a customs officer. Griner had been held since mid-February after police said they found vape cartridges containing cannabis oil in her luggage. She's pleaded guilty to the charges, but says she has no criminal intent on bringing them to the country, and packed in haste for her return to play in a Russian basketball league during the WNBA's off-season. Yeah, the problem is there was a lot. Russian officials respond to U.S. offer for Brittany Griner, Paul Whelan. No agreements have been finalized. Russian officials on Thursday responded to reports from the Biden admin that a substantial proposal was offered to bring home Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan, claiming no deal has been finalized. Asked about the proposal during a press conference the following day, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that the prisoner swaps were typically negotiated discreetly behind the scenes. "We know that no such issues are discussed without such release of information. Normally, public learns about it when agreements are ready, implemented." Peskov emphasized no agreements finalized and refused to provide further details. He's going to put the elbow to the U.S. And funnily enough, oddly enough, with all this happening over here, Token Diversity Hire has the audacity to say this. Given the fact that they're currently using U.S. citizens and a Russian prisoner as political tools, here's what Token Diversity Hire has to say.
D.C. Mayor sent the White House a letter asking for National Guard help with migrants that have been bused here from Texas and Arizona. Is the president going to approve that request for the National Guard?
So, as to your question on the National Guard, I refer you to the Department of Defense. They will have that answer for you. We have been in regular touch with Mayor Bowser and her team. And I said this before. I said this last week about Republicans using migrants as a political tool, and that is shameful, and that is just wrong. There is a process in place for for managing migrants at the border. This is not it, what they're doing currently. That includes expelling migrants as required by court order under Title 42, transferring them to ICE custody, or placing them in the care of local NGOs as they await further processing. Again, so what Republicans are doing, the way that they're meddling in the process and using migrants as a political pawn is just wrong.
So the White House's preference would be for small towns in Texas and Arizona to have to take care of these migrants rather than a large metropolitan city
That is not what I
like
said.
Washington, D.C.
That is not what I said.
That is what
That,
you
no,
said.
that
You
is
said
not.
you think that
I
people
said
are
that
using
there is.
migrants.
Yeah, they are. They're sending migrants to big cities on purpose,
So
using them as a political ploy.
So if they don't go to big cities, where should they
There's
go?
a process. I just laid it out.
There's a process, and they come to a big city, and now
That
the
is-
mayor says she needs the National Guard.
That's
So
because Republicans are using migrants who are coming here for who knows, because they're dealing with humanitarian issues back in their country. They're coming here for a better life, and they are being used. Peter, they're being used by Republican governors. That is what's
Does any
happening.
of this just make the president want to say, this is causing a lot of burdens on small cities, big cities, maybe I should just close the border?
What I'm saying is what Republicans are doing is wrong, and there is a process in place, and we should follow the process. There's a legal process in place, and they should follow it. Okay, thank you.
So Republicans are using migrants as political tools, and Ben Wild actually just said the same thing I was going to bring up off of this is, hey, kids in cages, anybody? Well, let's go talk about kids in cages. I think that's worth having a conversation about. Wouldn't you say that's worth having a conversation about? Not only that, Brittany Griner, Paul Whelan. That sounds like a political tool. Hey, look, we have another reason to be mad at Russia. But again, the anger comes from the fact that these people aren't staying in their small border towns. They're getting brought up to places where the government officials are. They're being brought to the Capitol. We're decadent society. Well, let's face it, DC is not decadent society either, but they're bringing them into places where there are already problems, but where people have to go back and see them. Briefly from the Washington Times, White House accuses Republicans of political theater as immigrants arrive in Washington. I mean, it is kind of political theater. I'm going to go with them on that, just slightly. But on the caveat of it may be political theater, but there's political theater of these politicians trying to relax policies to get more of these people here. And Title 42. End catch and release. Soften the border security. Tell everyone that nobody can be illegal. Okay, if these politicians and these voters, by the way, who are largely clustered into these cities that they're being sent to, want these people so badly, then they're going to have them. I do think that's fair. They're the ones that did so much to try to get these people here, so, okay. Deal with them once they're here. From Joseph Clark, the White House on Thursday accused Republican governors of using illegal immigrants as political pawns as D.C. strains from scores of illegal immigrants being bused from red border states. Muriel Bowser requested the National Guard assistance to manage the more than 4,000 migrants she says have been bused to the city from Texas and Arizona. Are you saying that a large influx of migrants coming to your city puts a strain on resources? Is that what you're saying? In a July 22nd letter to the White House, Ms. Bowser said the flood of migrants was a result of a cruel political gamesmanship by Governors Abbott and Ducey of Texas and Arizona, respectively. Our ability to assist people in need at this scale is very limited. Oh, so you're saying that there is strain on your resources. Instead of rolling up their sleeves and working with the Biden-Harris admin on a real solution, Governors Abbott and Ducey have decided to use the desperate people to score political points, Ms. Bowser wrote. Oh, so you're telling me you would rather just keep these people out of sight, out of mind until Election Day? Oops. Except in 2020 when nothing bad happened. Honk honk. And now that you're on your now that they're on your doorstep, now they're a problem. Is that what you're saying, Miss Bowser? From KOMO. This coming off the other side, over in Mexico City. This is also funny, by the way. Locals effing hate you. Leave. Mexicans say American residents are a plague. From Zachary Rogers. Oh! Oh! So you're saying that a group of people who look different from the local population, who don't speak the language, and can't adapt to your culture, are a problem? This is funny because we're seeing a lot of this, excuse me, what's happening with this, with remote work and work from home and property being dirt cheap on an American wage in Mexico City. A lot of hipsters, a lot of Gen Xers, people like that, were moving to Mexico City, working remotely, and enjoying the culture and everything else, but not adapting to the culture. It seems the residents of Mexico City are unhappy about the recent influx of Americans moving to their area. In fact, according to the LA Times, some residents are downright livid. Americans, some working from home, are reportedly moving to Mexico City from places like California and Arizona to take advantage of the cheap rent. However, what's cheap for America is not necessarily cheap for Mexico. Well, yeah, if you start getting more demand for these places in Mexico, you're going to start to see a rise in your rate prices, for one. About 1.6 million Americans currently live in Mexico, according to the State Department. The Mexican government says it allows Americans to stay up for 6 months if they don't have a visa. Americans are apparently taking advantage of low prices in Mexico during a time of inflation and moving to places with cheaper rent. As an example, the LA Times says a penthouse apartment runs for about $2,000 a month in an area where an average salary for Mexicans is about $450. Jimao told the LA Times she receives at least 50 calls a week to her organization from Americans thinking about moving to Mexico City. Oh, the quote is part of the article. We're just seeing Americans flooding in. It's people who may have had their own businesses, or maybe they're thinking about starting some consulting or freelance work. They don't even know how long they're going to stay. Alejandro Demal, the leader of a relocation organization called Welcome Home Mexico, told the LA Times. They're completely picking up their entire lives and just moving down here. Didn't George Strait do a song about that? Let's see. New to the city, working remotely? You're an effing plague and the locals effing hate you. Leave, read several posters put up in neighborhoods where Americans reside, the LA Times reports. The LA Times also mentions a group in Mexico City hosting places. We have lost gentrification, touristification, and forced displacement. Walking tour, adding that a flyer for the event read, "Our homes now house digital nomads." We're the only brown people. We're the only people speaking Spanish except the waiters, a Mexico City writer and professor named Fernando Bustos Gorospe told the LA Times. Americans flocking to Mexico City is reportedly a practice expected to increase as time goes on and inflation gets worse, but LA Times insisted that in its report that Mexico City natives must be letting their disdain boil beneath the surface, adding most are unwaveringly kind to visiting Americans. Oh, so it's almost like a citizenry who comes down, who won't adapt to your culture, instead tries to force their culture into it, that doesn't look like you, that doesn't act like you, and taking advantage of your system. It's almost like that's a problem. Weird. We've got a Fox News article saying the same thing. Let's skip that. But in light of all this, now that migrants are being bused to New York and D.C., where the government people are, news for Jacksonville. U.S. to fill border wall gaps at open area near Yuma. Gee, it only took the resources from their cities getting parasitized that now they want to go back and do something. This is from Anita Snow. The Biden admin on Thursday authorized completion of the Trump-funded U.S.-Mexico border wall in an open area of southern Arizona near Yuma that's become one of the busiest corridors for illegal crossings. Biden had pledged during his campaign to cease all future wall construction, but the admin later agreed to some barriers citing safety. DHS said Thursday that the work to close 4 wide gaps in the wall near Yuma will better protect migrants who can slip down a slope or drown walking through a low section of the Colorado River. No, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Texas and Arizona are now pushing the migrants if they round them up and dropping them in your cities. The agency said in a statement that Alejandro Mayorkas authorized completion of the project near the Morelos Dam, reflecting the admin's priority to deploy modern, effective border measures and also improving safety and security along the southwest border. It was initially to be funded by the Defense Department, but will now be paid for out of Homeland Security's 2021 budget. Oh, I thought you were just whacking yourselves off not that long ago, saying, oh, well, we convinced Mexico to put millions of dollars into our border security. No, it's going to come out of Homeland Security's budget? Oh! Asked and answered. Oops, that's right. There's no right click in that program. There you go, Fanning. Have at it. So this is an interesting turn of events. Here's a really stupid take. Are you ready for a really stupid take? And by the way, it's a stupid take by someone who has a Ukrainian flag in their Twitter name. Ron Filipkowski. Lauren Boebert wants the House to pass a rule to give her 5 days to read a bill before voting on it. And Ron thinks that's a bad thing.
Members should have 5 days to read and consider bills before voting on them. Members should have 5 days.
And see, Ron thinks that's a problem. Well, he's probably going to come out. It's just because Lauren Boebert's so stupid, she can't go back and do that. And I've seen some comments actually in this. I've been kind of tracking this particular thread throughout the morning. And there are people that are actually coming out and saying 5 days per 1,000 pages of bill. Because, like they've said, especially when it comes out to a budget or an omnibus. Now, a lot of the stuff that we've read on here, on this program, has been shorter than 1,000 pages. But yeah, it should be 5 days. This monstrosity that just came out, the Manchin one, yeah, they should have 5 days to go back and read that and pick that apart. But a lot of the times they're getting these bills and they're voting on them. Like it's hitting the floor and they're voting on it within an hour. In an amount of time that nobody would be able to read a 5,000 page bill or even a 758 page climate deal between Manchin and Schumer. You should still have a couple days to go back and go through that bill before they send it over to the Senate. They should. They absolutely should. I think one of the big reasons where they just drop it down, especially on an omnibus, a budget, or a climate deal like that, they drop it down and they try to get it rammed through as fast as they can, is because they don't... I remember one of the last big omnibuses that they did. I don't know if it was the omnibus. I think it was one of the stimulus packages that they did, where it actually took them a couple days to muster up the votes because there were people getting reluctant, and 4chan got a hold of it. And the entire thing, with all the users, anonymous and otherwise, on 4chan, were able to take a page at a time, each one of them, go through and analyze it, and come back out and give the American people the idea of just how much foreign giveaway was in our stimulus bill. That's who I think they don't want to get their hands on it, is 4chan. They wanted to go in, get hammered through before anybody can go back and read it, and then, oh, well, you got to pass it to see what's in it. From the Blaze, Disney, Apple, and Amazon and other major businesses urged the Senate to pass the Respect for Marriage Act. No. From Alex Nitzberg. Well over 100 businesses have signed onto a letter urging the U.S. Senate to pass the Respect for Marriage Act. You know why? Because it disincentivizes people from going and having their weddings, especially if it's a same-sex woke wedding or group wedding or whatever the heck it is, in another state, and then doing their honeymoon in that state. They're back to chained to their desk within a day. The bill, which cleared the House last week, would advance the LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBYAXTYAMDINTY agenda as it pertains to gay marriage. While the Supreme Court previously steamrolled states' rights regarding same-sex marriage in its 2015 Obergefell v. Hodges ruling, the Respect for Marriage Act would enshrine into law a prohibition against states declining to recognize same-sex marriages from other states. The measure would prohibit states from denying full faith and credit to any public act, record, or judicial proceeding of any other state pertaining to marriage between two individuals. Why not three individuals? Why do you hate Mormons? Well, there's a lot of reasons that Democrats hate Mormons, but on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin of those individuals, the bill would bar states from denying a right or claim arising from such a marriage on that basis, that such a marriage would not be recognized under the law of that state on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, national origin of those individuals. Now, I don't care if gay people get married. I really don't. As long as a gay man doesn't ask me to marry him, I don't care. It's less than meaningless to me. And honestly, with the exception, especially with Steven not being here, I think there's only one or two of you where it matters to you. I think the most of you are kind of in the same boat as I am. Think it's weird, think it's a sin, but for the most part, you've got to go back, you've got to deal with God at the end times. You and St. Peter have to have the talk. As far as the recognition of it, that's where it gets tricky off of this, and why the federal government's trying to come in off of this on something that is indeed a state contract, and the federal government is trying to tell the state how it operates its contract. It is, the religious aspect aside, as I've said, if I do by some miracle get married, I will get 2 marriage certificates. One that will allow me to be pure in the eyes of God and have sex with my wife and produce children with her. And one that will allow the state to say, okay, you have to file jointly, you have to file as a single household, you will be the head of household, this is how we're going to track your children, etc., etc. Guess which one of those I actually care about? Hint, it's not the latter. But as far as what it is by our government and what that license is, it is a state property contract. You've agreed on the basis of the rest of your life, unless one of you wants to do a no-fault divorce, which are legal in my state, by the way. This is a no-fault divorce state. To share your property, and on the event of one of you passing, your property automatically goes to the other one by the state contract. You have agreed to give the best care possible to your children, staying together as long as possible. and live together harmoniously with your property, again, defaulting to the other party if one of you should die. It is a state property contract. Not a federal property contract, a state property contract. Which means the individual needs of the state do need to be brought in forward. Do I think it's going to be crazy if Kentucky comes out and says, no gay marriage? Yeah, I probably wouldn't go to Kentucky after that. Do I think that's their prerogative? Yes, I do. But Disney, Apple, and Amazon do definitely want to go back out and make sure that you don't have to leave your desk or move out of state or do anything else to go have your marriage recognized. Back to your desk, wage slave. Here's an interesting one from the Daily Wire. 50-plus lawmakers signed on to brutal letter to Biden from ex-Obama doctor demanding Biden get a cognitive test. Yeah, Ronnie Jackson, Dr. Jackson, has not been kind to Biden. From Ryan Saavedra. Now, of course, it's all Republicans. 53 U.S. lawmakers, all Republicans, signed onto a letter this week from former White House physician Ronnie Jackson, who served in the role under the Obama and Trump admins, demanding that Democrat President Biden take a cognitive exam and immediately share the results with the public. While you underwent your annual physical exam on November 19th, 2021, you either did not face a cognitive test or those results were withheld from the public, Jackson, a Republican who now represents Texas's 13th congressional district in Congress, wrote. White House physician Kevin O'Connor, DO, attested you being fit to successfully execute the duties of presidency in a very superficial and purely physical matter. However, we are worried about your mental abilities. The letter cited numerous metrics of America's declining confidence in Biden's ability to do the job, including the following statistics from surveys. 66% of voters believe you should take a cognitive test. 56% of voters are not confident that you're physically and mentally fit for your duties as president, representing 39-point change from October of 2020. 64% of voters believe you have shown signs that you're too old to execute the duties of the President of the United States, including 60% of respondents aged 65 or older. And only 33% of voters approve of the job that you have done as president. So, that's what we see for that. We are up on the clock. We got to finish some of these out of here. We will get close. I don't think we're going to get finished because we do have to do live chat today. Let me rephrase that. We get to do live chat today. I'm not going to treat it like it's a chore because it actually is probably one of my favorite segments on this program. I refuse to treat it as a chore. I love reading the live chat. I'm going to be bummed if this show ever takes off and we get 200, 300, 400 viewers per stream or 4,000 viewers per stream and I can't do this anymore. I'm going to be bummed. That's why I want to take the time and do it for you guys now, while we're a tight-knit group of 20 or less. Let's see. So, yeah, he does need to take a cognitive test. Come on, man. Especially with the big deal that they made of the other guy. All right, from The Blaze. Biden met with 14 of Hunter Biden's business associates while he was vice president, despite denying knowledge of his son's foreign dealings, emails, White House logs. Who is surprised? From Paul Saka. At least 14 of Hunter Biden's business associates met with Joe while he was vice president, according to a new report. President Biden has denied speaking to his son about his overseas business dealings. According to the Obama White House visitor logs and emails from Hunter Biden reviewed by Fox News, the first son's business associates from China, Kazakhstan. Oh, was Borat there? I hear he likes sex. It's very nice. Mexico, Russia, and Ukraine met with Biden when he was the vice president of the U.S. On February 26, 2014, Miguel Aleman Velasco and Miguel Aleman Magnani, no relation, reportedly visited the Obama-Biden White House. I'm starting to talk like Biden here. It's the Biden administration. Come on, man. The Mexican business partners of Hunter were allegedly given a private tour of the White House Brady press briefing room by then Vice President Biden. In April of 2014, Hunter emailed David Lineman, Biden's official photographer, to ask for photos of the meet and greet. Hunter wrote, "Do you have pictures of the lunch I had in Dad's office, I think 226, with Miguel Aleman Sr. and Jr. and Jeff Cooper? If so, let me know and I can send someone to pick them up. Thanks, how is Kiev?" A month later, Cooper even asked Hunter, "Any luck on getting those other pics from the White House, Aleman visit, or getting a few signed for Miguel and his dad?" Cooper was an attorney who worked with the late Beau Biden and Hunter's business associate. Cooper was the managing partner of Simmons Cooper, an Illinois law firm that specializes in representing asbestos victims. Simmons Cooper donated nearly $200,000 to Joe Biden's political campaign, the LA Times reported in 2008. Biden's brother James and Hunter utilized Simmons Cooper in 2006 to purchase a group of hedge funds known as Paradigm. The Bidens later repaid Simmons Cooper $1 million after the deal fell through with the new law firm. Yeah, does anybody really believe at this point that he didn't know? Especially when a photo like that is out there? I don't. Kazakhstani guests? Yeah, I don't believe it. Joe Biden was regular at DC hotspot where he met Hunter's Kazakh associates. I mean, we all knew right from the start. Speaking of things that nobody should be surprised about, another one from our friends over at NPR. Hopefully there's actually an article in this one. San Francisco declares an emergency to help the city deal with the monkeypox spread. This comes to NPR from the Associated Press, but to hit that donate button. They need our money comrade to come back out and tell you to be afraid of the monkeypox. It might come airborne. Wear the mask. Get the vaccine. Don't worry. Nothing bad is in this. We won't put COVID vaccine or whatever's in there with that. Get that monkeypox vaccine. And hit that donate button because it's not your money, comrade. It's our money. NPR, Never Printing Reality, National Progressive Radio. The mayor of San Francisco announced a legal state of emergency on Thursday over the growing number of monkeypox cases. Of course it's San Francisco. Allowing officials to cut through red tape and fight public health crisis reminiscent of the AIDS epidemic that began devastating the city in the 80s. The only way it would be more on point if it would be Provincetown. The declaration, which takes effect on Monday, was welcomed by gay advocates who have grown increasingly frustrated by what they called San Francisco's lackluster response to a virus that has so far affected primarily men who have sex with men, though anyone can get infected, especially if they're getting effed in the A by men who have sex with men. I do feel like we need to invest in some wood chippers here. San Francisco was at the forefront of the public health response to the HIV and the pinko pox, and will be at the forefront when it comes to the monkeypox, said State Senator Scott Wiener. Of course it's Scott Wiener. You'll know this one as the famous person who A, allowed for sodomy to be recognized in the case of children as young as 14, and the gentleman who also led the charge to make it not a crime to knowingly give somebody AIDS. That's Scott Wiener. We can't and won't leave the LGBTQIRAMIGXTBYAMTIAP community out to dry. Arbolt, I could use that prayer too. Although I think that ship has sailed in my case. How much more on the nose can you get, seriously? In San Francisco, with Scott Wiener leading the charge. The thoughts are there and the words won't come, partially because we are trying to keep this friendly for AM radio defectors. Alright, let's do these two and then this tweet and we'll head out of here, or we'll do live chat rather. From CBS 42, Florida schools to hire veterans, spouses without teaching experience. From Mitch Carr and Taylor Delandro of Nexstar Media Wire. With about 3 weeks left until students start the new school year, Florida is taking a new approach to address its current teacher shortage. It's turning to veterans and their spouses to head to the classroom and teach. The Florida Education Association reports more than 9,000 vacancies, 4,300 teaching jobs, and 5,200 non-teaching essential jobs at the same time. The state's trying to expand workforce opportunities for veterans and their spouses. The Florida Department of Education announced that military veterans and their spouses could receive 5-year vouchers to allow them to teach in the classroom without a teacher's degree. The move is tied to $8.6 million of the state announced would be used to expand career and workforce training opportunities for military veterans and their spouses. Carmen Ward, president of the Alachua County Education Association, member of the Florida Education Association, is one of many school leaders who think this move is a way to devalue the teaching profession. We're always fighting to lift our profession up. We have a lot of veterans that work currently in our schools, however, they have 4-year degrees because it's an academic position. It requires the person who's teaching the subject matter might have academic experience with that subject matter, Ward said. She continued, and not to mention the teachers have a pedagogy. It's not just science, but an art to be able to teach children to read. We do not believe that anyone, regardless of their education, can be a teacher in the classroom. No, you've got to be in the boys' club, just like government. The Florida Department of Education says those eligible to apply include active duty service members of the U.S. Armed Forces or Reserve Unit, the spouses, veterans who were honorably discharged or retired from the service as members of the U.S. Armed Forces or Reserve Units, the spouses of those who were honorably discharged or retired, the surviving spouses of veterans or service members who died while on active duty as members of the U.S. Armed Forces or Reserve Units. And the response, that's the shot, here's your chaser. Teachers union upset that Florida to address teacher shortage by hiring veterans without college degree. We do not believe that anyone can be a teacher in a classroom. From Courtney Wheel. This, of course, is their jab at homeschool. Teachers unions in Florida are concerned with a new state policy which will allow veterans without a college degree to receive a 5-year voucher to teach at a state public or charter school. According to reports, Florida currently has more than 4,300 teaching vacancies. With a new school year fast approaching, in an effort to fill some of these essential positions, the state has adjusted the requirements for vets. Vets who wish to apply for the teaching voucher must have a minimum of 48 months of active duty military with honorable or medical discharge, a minimum of 60 credits with a 2.5 grade point average, passing a score on Florida subject area exam for bachelor's level subjects which demonstrate mastery of subject area knowledge, employment in Florida school district, including charter schools. So, right there, the reporting between the Blaze and CBS 42 is starkly different. CBS 42 would have you believe, and this is out of Alabama, by the way, that they're just pulling Billy Bob up out the swamp and putting a suit on him and saying, hey, you're the teacher now. Congratulations, you went to the army. I mean, to listen to what CBS 42 is saying, you'd think that Forrest Gump is going to be the next teacher off of this. But, of course, the Blaze doing the Lord's work and pointing out the fact that, no, there is a very, very specific set of guidelines that these people have to have. This is more stringent, by the way, than what it is in Wisconsin. I could go and get a teaching job in Wisconsin right now if I wanted to. College degree or technical diploma is all that you need in Wisconsin. They took the licensing effect away. Because that's actually what I pursued at first, was education. And then I realized what the teachers union was and decided that there was no way that I could bring myself down to that level. But in Wisconsin, when I was first going into it, you didn't get, like, there was no education path. You didn't go into education, unless it was elementary education, but that was its own major. But there was no education major. You went in and majored in the subject that you intended to teach, which for me was math. You majored in that subject with a minor in education so you could go for the licensing requirement. And then you went off and got the license and you were done. But under Walker, they actually lowered this down. So I have a friend of mine who went to school for electrical engineering and horticulture, was a teacher for a little while. Now he's doing electrical engineering again. But yeah, at the time he was, that's what he went for, was horticulture and electrical engineering and teaching. No license, no nothing needed. I mean, I could do a badass job at, I could do an awesome job at auto shop, because I know that pretty much back and front, inside and out at this point. But yeah, I could go get a teaching job right now in Wisconsin, because I don't even need to have all of this here. It's pretty stringent in Florida. The policy went into effect on July 1st and offers free waivers for military spouses as well, though contrary to some reports, spouses still subject to the same requirements as other civilians. While many teachers acknowledge the shortage is dire and that fewer and fewer recent graduates are electing to become teachers, many Florida Teachers Union members are unhappy with the new policy for veterans, particularly the education requirements. Yeah, because they probably won't go back and join the union. We have a lot of veterans that work currently in our schools, however, they have 4-year degrees because it's an academic position. It requires the person who is teaching the subject matter to have academic experience with that subject matter. Tina Certain agreed. It's not that I'm against service veterans providing to our country. I just think that the education profession, we're lowering the bar on that and minimizing the criteria of what it takes to enter the profession. You can't just throw a warm body in the classroom, that's not the answer, said Barry Dubin, president of the Sarasota County Teachers Association. However, DeSantis is optimistic about the new plan. We owe the freedoms we enjoy as Americans to our military veterans, while I'm focused on ensuring Florida is the best state in the nation for those who have served to find great jobs, start or grow a business, and support their families, DeSantis said in a statement. Business is booming in Florida. Employers are looking for the leadership skills, training, and teamwork military veterans bring to the workforce. Look, minimum of 48 months active duty, minimum of 60 credits with a 2.5 grade point average, passing a score saying that you have the mastery to teach that subject, and employment in a Florida school district, including charter schools. This is not throwing a warm body at the problem. As much as the teachers union and CBS 42 would like you to believe, this is not just throwing a warm body at the problem. All right, and we will do one more here just because this is what they're actually doing in Europe. Happening now, Animal Rebellion takes to the supermarkets around London to disrupt the dairy aisles. This is happening in the UK. This is only beginning. Join us this September to stop the supply of dairy. Sign up for one of our talks happening every Thursday evening by following the links in our bio. So you're buying up the supply of dairy with money that we don't know where you're getting from. By the way, have you seen what artisan cheeses go for? And I don't know what it's like in London, and I'm sure that you've got the French cheese, which is cheap over there, but ridiculously expensive to get over here. But you're buying up all the stuff to make sure nobody else can get it. That's how you're using your money. And you think this is an issue? I mean, I'm sure the farmers in the Netherlands love you for this, but this is how you solve the issue that you've perceived? By buying all the stuff? I hope you're at least giving it to a homeless shelter or something. And again, the big question here is, where are you getting the money? I've worked in a grocery store. It's not hard to have $1,000 worth of milk just sitting there on the shelf, especially in a bigger city. And cheese, again. You have $1,000 worth of that sitting in your deli case alone. That's not difficult. I don't know what it is that these people think that they're doing, but they think they're doing something. Jessica Green, friend of the show, says, when I first saw this, I thought they were doing something awesome, like buying meals for the homeless or something. Turns out they're just stupid and not helping anybody, and spending money to do it. Thank you for reminding me that I need to pick up some milk. All right, that's it. That's all we have for news. We'll do some live chat, though, today here. See how far back we are. Oh, we're all the way back into the Let's Go Brandon guy. Ron Helton says, what it means if you don't support Brandon, then you ain't black. That's what they're afraid, or why they're hard on the guy. Ben Wild says, breakfast taco to you, sir. Arvold coming in with the emotes. By the way, if you want to use these emotes, like Based and CNN like Arvold did, both of those are on the Tier 1 subscription, which means that you can use your free Amazon Prime subscription to get access to them. But yes, we have custom emotes for the channel. I can't use them on the Restream robot, but I can use them over here. Hold on. Apparently Ben Wild is a possible ban evader. Monitoring. Well, I'll allow it because I like Ben Wild. Let's look at the emotes. There's 2 globes because I wanted it to be a free one, but in order for me to use it in other people's channels, then it needed to be a paid one, so I can spread the globe around the world. But yeah, if you guys want to use great emotes like that, the top ones, all you have to do is hit the follow button on Twitch, the top tier. Those are your free ones. And then the second tier, if you get your either your Tier 1 paid subscription or your Amazon Prime subscription, or if somebody gifts you a subscription, you have access to those ones. By the way, I am going to be adding a Tier 2 for anybody who wants to go up to Tier 2. And there's there's going to be one emote for Tier 3, but I promise there will be enough spice in that emote that it'll be worth the $25 a month. If anybody wants to go on a limb and use that one. I'm not going to say what it is, although in the Discord it's there, and I'm pretty sure you guys know which one it is if you're in the Discord. Horatius is here as well. Ron Helton says, sure is, looks like some beer. Alright, let's see what we've got going on here. By the way, Starlina followed me 2 hours ago. Thank you, Starlina. Enjoy the emotes. On Monday, in order of the number of messages that each person put in, on Monday, Quest Fanning, Arvold, Sir Leviticus, A Gaines P, Randy Crush Saga, Terry Very, and MK Ultra, 330. On Tuesday, Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, Arvold, Job for 9, KTZed popped in, to say hi to everybody. Randy Crush Saga, Chilaga 1984, Horatius and Luke Wee. On Wednesday, which was weird because we hit 20 viewers on Wednesday, but only had 6 live chatters. But they're cool live chatters. We like those 6 live chatters. On Wednesday, we had Quest Fanning, Randy Crush Saga, Ron Helton, A Gaines P, Tails 79, and Arvolt 24. Yesterday, we had Quest Fanning, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru, Ron Helton, Randy Crush Saga, Sully Blue, Arvolt, Seawall, and Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru. All right. Let's see what we have going on here. Let's see. Ron Helton says, look like some beer. I like beer. I still like beer. No, it's too green to be beer. If your beer is this green, you got problems, man. It is the Green Thunder Mio Energy, which I gotta get more. I ran out last night. With a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Horatius, yeah, okay, you have to admit you're an alcoholic before you can do something about your problem. I used to be. I will admit to that. Apple cider vinegar, 1 out of 3 at least. Cider drink. Horatius says, I just checked Wikipedia, and it now doesn't fit the definition of a recession. Ron pointing out accurately, wait till October to see what the market does. Horatius, if you say inflation is high, that the US is in a recession, that the economy is booming more than ever, you are a racist, bad sir. I will take my R badge proudly. It's kind of like the rejection sticker that they had for the Massachusetts inspection. If you didn't pass, and it's usually emissions, but safety or emissions, when they put the sticker in the lower passenger side corner of your window, instead of having the month when your inspection was going to expire, it said R, rejection. Or because I went to a mechanic school and it was a lot of Hondas that had those R stickers in them, they called them the racing sticker. Oh, you got a racing sticker too? Is not booming. Randy says, good morning. Remember, the reason that we have lower GDP is because of the booming economy. It makes sense if you don't think about it. Ben Wild is here, says you can call poop or feast or stink pickles or Lincoln logs. Call it whatever you want, it still stinks. You know what I say, may your fists be larger and your midgets smaller. Nice. Quest, you're next to that miserable state, aren't you? No, there is Connecticut and Rhode Island between you and that miserable state. I was going to say, you've probably seen the rejection sticker or the racing sticker. Quest Fanning is here. Ron Helton, Morning Quest. Nice t-shirt. Let's see the whole thing. Let's see how awkwardly we can do this. Gozer's House of Puffed, New York City. Get puffed, stay puffed. And my nephew has an identical one, except his is smaller. Much smaller, because he's 9. 8? 9. Randy thought a bunch of natives were doing rain dances. Randy says, they say once in 1,000 years, so people think they should be good after one. It's based off the chance, not actual timelines. Oh, buying a house. I need to do that too. Good game though, Randy. Fedwild, there are 2 things you can do in that area of Kentucky. Go up a mountain or down a mountain. I think when I crossed the Appalachians, if I remember correctly, I was in Tennessee, but that was on 75, so I didn't get that far east. Good news is a lot of makeshift meth labs are missing too. Quest says, does this mean blacks are more violent? Does it mean the only reason MAGA are characterized as violent is because of the blacks? You black? Quest, I can't read that one on air. It's funny, but I can't do that one. Randy is blowing up Quest Discord DMs, which I thought that was directed at me at first. The judge said, I have to make an example, you boy. Randy says, that Whalen guy is some kind of CIA agent. Ben Wild says, someone accused me of being racist because I said that Griner should accept the responsibility for her decisions. How dare you! The other guy was caught with 80K on him too. So let's talk about Seb Vettel's retirement and whether Michael Schumacher gets a seat at Aston Martin. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what you're referring to, unfortunately. But it's probably sports or racing related because of Aston Martin, which for Euro manufacturers, I actually really like Aston Martin. I'll never be able to afford one, but I really like them. Harvey says, it's almost as if the US isn't so unfair after all. Yeah, Randy, they really seem to want us to not focus on Whalen. He must be white. Fanning says, yeah, her new career will be cracking rocks in a forced labor camp, but America is the one based on slavery. You mean the one that's based on slavery? Randy brings up the important part of, unless the stuff was marked, I'm surprised they didn't just write it off as normal vape stuff. It does almost seem like they were going looking for something. And found it. Ben says, didn't Dems use kids in cages as political ploy and weaponize the message? Yes. There you go. Yes. With the Chad. Quest says, without double standards, the left wouldn't have any standards. Who built the cages, Joe? Says Randy. 100 messages. Congratulations. Randy says, accurately, the same thing I've been saying for years. The right needs to make the message clear that Dems have no intention to legalize these people. They're holding them hostage for their legal family, friends, votes. It's one of the first solo videos that I made when I started doing YouTube videos. Was my dissatisfaction with the Dreamer program, with the Dream Act, because of the fact that they're in immigration limbo for the rest of their lives. Every 2 years, you come out and hear that they're going to send the Dreamers and deport all the Dreamers. But they won't legalize them, so they never have to worry about it again. Quest says they didn't get to filter out low-class Americans. So funny, after our visit to Mexico City in October of 2020, my daughter actually said that she could see living there. Arvold, I stepped away. WTF, are you saying Mexicans are mad because Americans are immigrants? And they're mad people don't speak the language? Yes. Ben says, I beg you to start a YouTube channel or TikTok called Kamala Babble and just post videos of her most nonsensical speeches. It'll be monetized, I'm sure. Probably not. Well, I won't do TikTok because of its CCP connections. I hope that's one thing that Elon should do if he's serious about doing social media, is restart Vine. Betcha I could get monetized on that. Ron Helton says 5 days to read is probably not enough time. Probably need a month to read and decide how it will violate our rights. Arvold says, until death you do you part is a serious contract not to be taken lightly. Ben says, anyone that wants to get married should have the right to be as miserable as the rest of us. Ben says, Joey Poopy Pants would answer, come on, man, corn pop, but please, making Kamala take one as well. Funny enough, even a poll that showed a slight majority in favor of impeaching Trump the first time also showed a growing belief that he was doing much better month by month. Randy's apparently not interested in finding someone new and more likely going to go MGTOW, but without the general hate for women that those guys have. Quest says, remember how Fauci screwed up the AIDS response? Arvold says, I understand, I really do. I'm going to pray that the right person finds you at the right time. We aren't built to be alone. Well, I need that prayer too. Although I think that ship has sailed for me. I could teach writing an outdoorsman blog that has 80 followers. Do it up. Ben Wild says, F the teachers union. Oh, we aren't going to teach civics, but here's a unit on square dancing. I love square dancing, so... If they already had a 2.5 GPA, why didn't they decide to finish college? Just saying. Sometimes that's for running out of money. I had a 2.5 GPA when I went to culinary school, but I ran out of money. I couldn't afford to keep going out and finishing my degree. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. Is that racist milk or animal cruel milk? Both. Why not both? Ben Wild, please donate the cheeses to me. Randy says, I keep my money in cheese because it's decentralized. We've got the emotes. Spread the globe around the world. Yes. Yeah, Fanning might not be able to use his Prime sub. Definitely not, because, you know, reasons that we're not going to say out loud here. I think that might trigger Steven Ignoramus. Honda Acura Type R, yeah. Hard R rejected. That's a good one. I loved Ford versus Ferrari. Based on slavery. Did you know before his heart condition sidelined him, Carroll Shelby won at Le Mans for Aston Martin? I didn't know that. I never did like closed wheel or anything like that in either the big manufacturer ones. I was into NASCAR and then of course doing the racing that I did. But as far as like getting into the pageantry of the sport, I never really did. I want to try maybe a little bit more now because I'm interested in like 24 hours of Le Mans and stuff like that. But yeah, I never got into that kind of stuff before. Randy says, I had over 60 credits, but not towards the same major. I also left school so my wife could continue. We see where that got me. Money, good to know. Yeah, I don't think I had a 4.0, but I had high 3s in culinary school. But, you know, I decided I didn't want to have another loan, so I paid that one out of pocket. And I ran out of money, plain and simple. Watch Ford versus Ferrari. I'll look for it. Ken Miles talking to his son about the perfect lap. Alright, now we're looking at regrets, and we don't want to have regrets. Not on a Friday. And it's also 22, which means I gotta go put pants on and go to work. So, we're going to call it there. Good live chat. Good viewership. 14 was the peak that I saw today. New follower. That's pretty cool. 6 viewers over on the Twitch side right now, which I think is pretty cool as well. So I think we're gonna head out of here. I really don't have a choice at this point, do I? I could call in sick maybe. No, we've got a bunch of other people out. All right, so great week, everybody. A lot of news, a lot of good people in here today, a lot of new faces, a lot of lurkers as well. So we're starting to reach out. We're starting to grow our influence here. So keep sharing that out. Keep, especially if you're over on Twitch and you are subscribed, you do have access to all of the emotes as well on other channels. So throw an emote up there. Say, hey, come check out this channel where we can go throw memes around at each other. Come in, bring some more people in, spread the message of news by the common man for the common man. I'm trying to do that as well, and I know that we're sometimes getting some new people in here. Otherwise, we'll do a game stream this weekend. We'll go see what we can do. We're probably middle of the game Fallout 3, but we have all the DLCs done, so I think the rest of the game is going to go pretty quickly. So come back and join us for Fallout 3 on Saturday and on Monday. Otherwise, we'll be back here Monday for more contemporary, more news and more headlines. Looking forward to that. Stick around if you're on Twitch. We're going raiding, and we will see you next time. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.